Welcome back to the latest Weekend Warrior interview. I promised a lot of interviews coming up in the next week or so, and I'm not lying. And I'm really proud of this interview that I was able to get with Mr. Lee Cronin of Lee Cronin's The Mummy. It's a really fantastic horror film. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fact that it brought The Mummy back to horror as much as I love the Brendan Fraser movies. Yeah, I had a great conversation with him. We talked about a lot of stuff about the movie. Not so much spoiler stuff, but a lot of stuff about how the movie was made, where the movie was made, the casting of these amazing actresses who play Katie, who's behind me, and her younger sister Maud, and all the stuff they go through. It's a really amazing movie, a really amazing achievement. I also asked him about that title and how he got his name in the title, and he gave me a really interesting answer. It was a really interesting interview, and if you haven't had this chance to see Lee Cronin's The Mum yet, I hope you'll go ahead and check it out in theaters. It is definitely a movie worth seeing in theaters with a crowd who react to stuff. Also, get to see some of the amazing things, the scope of scale, the horror, the production design, the set decoration. Holy crap. This is one of those horror movies that the below the line stuff is just so impressive. Can't help but like say, hey, you know what? I'd be proud to have my name on this in the title as well. Check out this interview with Lee Cronin that I did literally just 5, 6 minutes ago. And next week I'll have more interviews.
Can I get 2 slices of pizza?
No.
Of course, honey.
No, you never ever finish two.
Hello?
Mr. and Mrs. Cannon, I'm Deputy Chief at the U.S. Embassy. Your daughter Katie has been found. She's alive.
It's very important you fully prepare yourselves for what you're about to see. No sudden moves. No loud noises.
Hey, Butterfly. It's Mom and Dad.
Yeah, we are here.
Lee, it's nice to meet you. I actually wanted to talk to you even before I saw the movie because I am a fan of the original Mummy movie. I love the Boris Karloff movie, and I love the fact that you're returning to horror, which, I mean, no offense against Brendan Fraser and those movies. I mean, I like that movie, the first one, but The Mummy, it's a monster movie. It's got to be horror.
Yeah, yeah. It's not even that I feel the same. I just think it's a cool way to go back to its origins, which I thought was fun.
So let's go back 3 years. Evil Dead Rise came out almost exactly 3 years ago this week.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, were you already thinking of doing another movie in that franchise, or did you have this idea and you kind of went out and wanted to get this made instead? What was it, sort of like the transition from that to this?
Yeah, I think there was ongoing discussions after Evil Dead about sequels, and I'm really excited to see the the new movies that the guys are making at the moment. Um, but I think for me, I just felt like I wanted to just maybe make a movie that allowed me a little bit more cinematic scope than you can maybe achieve in an Evil Dead movie, because I think there are some particular pillars to what make an Evil Dead film an Evil Dead film, and it's super contained kind of at all times, and um, the character development goes a certain distance, and then you just got to start, ripping people apart, which is awesome, and I adore that. But I wanted the opportunity for a detective story and a mystery and these other things. So ultimately, I felt like it was a better route to go. Like, really, really proud of Evil Dead Rise. Couldn't be happier. It's like such an enormous highlight in my life to make that film. But I was also worried if I could, equal or top it, and maybe I needed to just go and do something a little different.
I like you mentioned the detective story because I think that was when I saw it again last night. I was like, yeah, this is actually really good. This is like Silence of the Lambs level. This is actually a really good detective story as well. And people,
Thank
like a
you.
lot of my fellow colleagues, didn't even mention that. But I mean, did you immediately go to Bloomhouse and to James to do this? I mean, I know. I mean, been a lot of questions of whether or not this was originally going to be at Universal or not, and whether or not what happened, or was that how did this kind of like happen?
Yeah, it started with a conversation between me and James. So I didn't have a burning desire to, I didn't have this idea.
Okay.
And I was working on some other things, and it was James kind of prompted me with the concept of making a mummy movie that could be a real horror movie and terrifying. And I thought that was interesting without having like an endless knowledge of mummy movies of the past. Like I said, I've seen a lot of them and I've enjoyed a lot of them, but it wasn't necessarily something I was going fishing for. But what happened was it just kind of tickled me a little bit, this opportunity to do something quite different. It fed into things that I like buried secrets, the return of somebody that isn't behaving how you expect. They're themes and things that have existed in other stories I've written and other movies that I've made. And once I kind of found this idea of mummification for a different purpose, which isn't around a pharaoh or a queen or a king or any, like not what you expect. What if it was a loved one? And what if it was kind of somewhat in the now? That felt very immediate and fresh to me. And then I kind of got hooked on the concept from there.
Did you do a lot of delving into Egyptian mythology and things like that, and the supernatural in Egypt, and like what kind of like where'd you even begin? I guess.
I started with the characters and the circumstances first of all. Like that was kind of really important to me. And from there, there's always like a low level of, it's always simmering. You're reading things and you're looking in on things and you're reminding yourself of things you might known already historically or otherwise. And but for me, it was more reminding myself of what people think of when they think about a mummy, and then trying to deviate from that a little bit. So the fact that, even within Egyptian mythology and all of the endless thousands of finds that have been made, there's still so much hidden history and unknown things. And I thought, well, look, I can now point my compass into a dark corner that nobody knows about, and I can draw something out from there to put into this movie. So I was always making sure I was connected to the past while, like, in terms of the historical research. But in a lot of ways, it was for me, I just wanted authenticity in the characters was really important. With the Egyptian characters specifically is what I'm talking about here.
Hmm.
And I found that to be a really interesting thing to kind of to get right, which wasn't about research as much as it was about getting to know the right people and finding the right cast members.
Yeah. I mean, I like the fact you had a lot of Egyptian actors who many Americans won't know at all. I mean, maybe in Egypt they're very
Hmm.
well known, have done a lot of stuff. I mean, how do you go
Hmm.
about finding them and kind of like modifying your script once you had them on board and had them to have conversations
Yeah,
with?
it's always about having the right team and having a great casting team. Terry Taylor over at Blumhouse and Sarah who works with Terry as well over there. In a lot of ways, you're briefing them like, what do you want? And I'm like, well, I want people to embody these roles that A can feel very naturalistic in what they do, but are also really representative of the world that I'm digging into. And so they took that brief and brought some really talented people in front of me. And I think with any cast member, whether Egyptian or otherwise, I'm always trying to glean a little bit of who they are as I rewrite and bring a little bit of that into the characters as well, and create a little bit of crossover between what's special about them as a performer and then what I'm trying to achieve with the characters in my story.
I think one of the benefits of being a writer director is you can. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of directors who write also will write stuff, but I mean, having being your own script, being your own that you're directing, you can also modify as you need to, even
Yeah,
on set, I guess.
it's a
Yeah.
big part of the process for me. It really is. There's a lot of rewriting. I would say rewriting, it's not like huge changes, but there's a lot of refining of scenes and ideas as you go. And some of that just really comes from like also listening to the performers. Like I would have, for example, the scene in the movie with the watching of the VHS tape was one that the actors are very nervous about because it's a very intense and kind of terrifying scene and needed to feel very real. And maybe earlier versions maybe had too many stops and starts and questions and information, and we kind of peeled it back to a much more primal place. But that comes from like also listening to actors trying to find the truth in how they can perform and react within a scene.
When I first saw the movie a couple weeks ago, I was really amazed by the scope and the scale of it just immediately. I mean, obviously,
Mhm.
Blumhouse made a lot of movies, like, smaller movies in, one location. This does take place a lot in one house, but I mean, you
Yeah.
were able to like capture the scope and the scale of Egypt, of New Mexico, all these things. I mean, can you tell me, like, was this actually shot in both places, or was this like, did you fake one or the
No,
other?
no, it wasn't. We had to be a little cleverer than that because like it was still a movie made at, that phrase, it was still a movie made at a price that everybody felt comfortable with. So it's not super high budget, but we prepared in a way that I think it allowed us to really expand our resources. And one of the things was through my producers, my company Wicked Good, and we looked in different places. but we looked to Almeria in southern Spain, which has been used, has a huge film history, like Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Lawrence of Arabia. And so it allowed me to visually capture Egypt in terms of, the desert environments and the farm that's in the story, and the landscapes that are there, but then also New Mexico as well. It kind of has quite a lot of variety in quite a small area. You can find some very arid spaces. You can find places that have a little bit more green. You can find just these things, and then it was just making the right choices in terms of how we populated those to create two distinct worlds, which actually carries through then when you're color timing the movie later on in terms of just creating those subtle distinctions, because it does take place in two kind of drier, more arid environments, and it would have been easy for those things to meld together and feel like one. But just all those subtle little nudges and pushes. So we shot it in southern Spain, and then we shot it in studio in Ireland. We also shot on location in Ireland as well, because obviously Ireland being an old country with a lot of historical buildings, we were able to find rooms and spaces. Like the police precinct is right in the middle of Dublin City,
Oh,
but
wow.
it had great bones to it. But then we did a huge production design job to make that feel like it was situated in Cairo and had the right kind of feeling. So a huge amount of design and preparation work and planning with our team, from a camera point of view, and with Dave, my director of photography as well, went into making sure we just captured these places in a way that had some authentic value to them.
Well, kudos to your location manager and to your production designer, and also to your set decorator. I mean, I love some of the decorations of all the different houses, and even including the pink room. I laughed pretty hard when I first saw that pink room.
The babe poster on the wall. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
there's a lot of detail. It's actually amazing, like looking back again at the police precinct, in Cairo, and the level of detail that the design team and the set decorator put in. I could never capture it all. I could have shot a whole movie in that space, down to just like the correct Arabic nameplates on desks and the ashtrays. And I've even got a couple of like boxes of cigarettes that are sitting on desks that you'd never see. Like all of but it all forms part of a tapestry and an authenticity. And also actors, when they walk into those spaces, it really helps them embody the role when they feel like they're immersed in a very real world.
Yeah, that's why I like watching movies on the big screen in theaters, because a lot of times my eye will just wander around a room to see things.
Mhm.
Obviously we're supposed to be paying attention to the actors and what's going on, but I'll catch that stuff. I'll see that stuff for sure. And I'm actually amazed because Albuquerque and Egypt have really good infrastructures for making movies and television
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So to go somewhere else completely and bringing everything
Yeah.
and manage to create the illusion, it's a brilliant illusion. It's a great job on that. So.
It was a lot of fun.
Let's talk about Katie. Let's talk about Maud. Let's talk about these amazing actresses you found to play them. I mean, first of all, I mean, again, like I said, this is a monster movie. For me, Katie is a creature performance. It's amazing. I don't know how much of that. So, what's her name? We played Katie.
Natalie.
Natalie. Natalie. I don't know how
Yeah.
much of Natalie did that himself. I mean, obviously, she must have been wearing the makeup for most of the movie. How do you
Yeah.
find actresses who can do this kind of stuff that you need for this movie? Because it really is relying, even on the younger Katie. I mean, Emily has to do a lot of stuff during
Yeah.
the videotape scene. So we're talking about
Yeah.
casting them and throwing them in makeup and throwing them into these situations.
Yeah, it's a real challenge. It's the backbone of trying to make a movie that works, really, is finding the right people. And I think I've worked with younger performers a lot, so I've kind of got quite a tuned instinct for what they can achieve, what they can do, what their abilities are, what their ceiling might be in terms of what they can do. I think with Natalie specifically, she was a really standout candidate that came along quite late in the process. I was kind of narrowing down to two or three other actors that were really good, but you're always taking a little bit of a gamble. And I was actually in Spain scouting the movie, not a million miles away from kind of getting started, on the process of shooting the movie. Like we were in prep, and Natalie's tape came in, and there was just this kind of, I suppose it was her presenting herself as a person. She's very sweet. She has a certain natural fragility to her. And then there was the way she was able to separate herself from that and give quite a toxic and dangerous performance. And then she you know, took this because it was kind of a relative newcomer, and this was without doubt the biggest thing she'd ever taken on. But she wanted the challenge. She wanted it all. She didn't want to hide or shirk. She took her training and her preparation and her responsibilities to take on the role like incredibly seriously. And at times it put pressure back on me to give her even more. So what you see in the movie for 90% of it is really Natalie doing it all and doing it in a very complex prosthetic as well.
Mm.
Um, but but I always think in situations like that, there's always occasions for safety and things where you use a stunt double or, sometimes even just for your schedule, you got to shoot over the shoulder of somebody because someone's stuck in a makeup chair, but you got to keep shooting or whatever it might be. But Natalie, everyone was guided by what she was doing, and taking our lead from that. And then I think with the other kids like younger Katie, young Emily, again, just a brilliant tape, and she was able to just really emote and show terror and fear. And it's funny because the scene in the VHS is like is one of the most terrifying. I think it's one of the scenes in the movie that strikes people quite cold and silent, and you're kind of hit with the starkness of it because you're actually getting the answer to the question that you've wanted, but in truth, you don't really want to see at that point. But she just had fun doing that. Like that was just she's like, I'm getting to scare everybody and freak everybody out. And look, like she's having fun facing off the mummy, and it's very different on a set in terms to what you capture. But also, you need, even with a young person, you need them to be emotionally intelligent enough to then separate themselves and give you the performance. She, again, incredible ability. Billy Roy, who plays little Maud, Shiloh Molina, who plays Seb. They all were very focused. I think that was the common thing, that real sense of focus, which isn't necessarily like with Billy being 9, maybe her focus is a little different. There's times you have to pull her attention back and really remind her about where she needs to be. But it's always even with a young actor or seasoned performer, it's just trying to help those people be in the moment, shot to shot, scene to scene, and help them deliver the performance that you're looking for and that they're going to be happy with.
Did Natalie and Emily have like a gymnastics background or anything like that that could be used for this kind
I'm
of
trying to
scenes?
remember. I think Natalie had done some dance work. I'm trying to remember now, actually. Now that you say it, I'm actually trying to remember because I know I remember like Veronica Falcone, who plays Carmen, like she has a dance background, which is really helpful with some of her movement later in the movie when she's dragged to the dark side. And Natalie definitely had some skills. I just can't quite recall what they were. But by the time she left the movie, she had an even fuller locker, and more tools to use for the physical performance.
I love it that by the end of the movie, literally everyone's covered in gore or blood, the scars. Like it's like not like she's the only one doing anything in this the special effect makes everyone gets involved, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
If you're gonna go for it, I'm a believer. Like this movie was a swing. That was the point for everybody involved. It's like if we're gonna go there, let's go there. Let's not sit on the fence and make something that's safe. Let's make something that is going to be arresting and, ambitious and loud and terrifying.
and also, we bring up your special makeups guy who's a two-time Oscar nominee, and I'm gonna don't know how to pronounce his name. Arjun.
Aryan Titan. Yeah.
Arjun Titan. Okay, thanks. Yeah, two-time Oscar nominee. He did Wolfman last year. He also did Sean Penn's makeup in the Best
Yeah.
Picture Oscar or whatever. So, yeah. So, how do you sit down and work with him to kind of like, get the vision of what you want of this, the mummy, to Katie look like as and the
Yeah.
evolved evolution of that.
Yeah, Aryan's a very softly spoken artist. He's very focused on his work in terms of what he does. So it was an interesting process because we talked a lot early on, and then he would go to ground and then present things to me. He'd want to just then like drift away and be left alone to work on the ideas. But we found our pattern and we found our rules early on because one of the things about this movie was that like I'm unboxing something that we don't know if it's a monster yet or not. There's many layers to be peeled back. So we knew we needed these phases. And I'd said, well, look, initially when she comes out of the sarcophagus, I want her to, if she's been wherever she's been, whether she was put in that sarcophagus just to be moved recently and was kept in a basement with the rats all these years. She hasn't seen the light of day in a long time. So I wanted her to be pale. I want her to be somewhat translucent and devoid of life. And then when we bring her home, she almost starts to look a little healthier for a moment. She looks better than when she's found in the sarcophagus, which it's not in the story, but like an Irish mother might go, oh, she's got a good bit of color in her face. But actually, the trick is that color is the start of the rot and the decay and the demon starting to strengthen and the binds on Katie starting to break down and to allow this kind of this nuclear waste that is the evil inside her run free. So it's just looking at all of these different stages and experimenting with those and doing makeup tests and looking at textures and then ultimately, before we shoot, bringing her onto camera and making little adaptations and all of those elements. So it was a process that went on for many, many months, and always an exciting one for me when I get the opportunity to dip back in, because when you're making a movie, you're dealing with 1,000 questions a day across multiple departments and multiple things that need to be figured out. So you might be running from a meeting where you're talking about the level of decay in the pink bedroom, and then you're running to go and talk about something really, really boring and practical that needs to be figured out. And then, oh, wait a minute, we need to go and look at these new makeup tests or whatever it might be. So, but that side of things, the prosthetics and the special effects makeup in that world is something that it's part of what drew me into filmmaking in the first place. I don't have the talent to create them, but I guess I have a talent to communicate what I would like to see and then rely on people that are real specialists in their field.
I have to ask about the title. I mean, this is like from when it was announced through the memes in the last week. I mean, you're literally like a household name now because of this movie title.
Bizarre one.
I can't think of any other, like Orson Welles never has his name in a title. Not Christopher Nolan, Spielberg, Tarantino. I think Guillermo del Toro is probably the closest. So
Yeah.
who threw that idea? What were some of your thoughts when they first said, okay, we're going to call it Lee Cronin's Mommy. It's going to go out as
Yeah.
that. Your name's going to be right there. Tell me who came up with the idea first of all, and then what your thoughts were.
It was Jason Blum's idea. And it was in response to everybody reading the script and loving it, but knowing that it had this real sense of its own identity. And also everyone being aware that we would always bump up against, and we still did bump up against the Stephen Sommers movies. Brendan Fraser is in those films. And they're great movies, man. They're like adventure and they're fun and they're exciting. But we just thought, let's be a little playful here. And when Jason presented me with the idea, I didn't just like high five and go, yeah. I was like, I need the weekend to think about it. I'm a pretty instinctive person, but I was a little unsure. And then I talked to my trusted partners, both, creatively and my own producers, and everybody was like, dude, whatever you do in your career, your movies will have your fingerprints all over them. And you author every corner of them, like, it said every curl in the wallpaper, that's rotting or whatever details. So, it's okay to put your name in front of it because it is going to very much be your film. And it wasn't something as a kid I dreamed of and went, I hope I have my name in front of a title. But nonetheless, it is kind of amazing, like being over in LA and family coming over for our world premiere of the movie, and you're driving by and you're seeing a billboard with your name on it. Is you suddenly realize that, yeah, like little Lee would have pinched himself and not believed that would be real. So it's been exciting. It's created a lot of noise. Some people go, why and if and all these different things. But I think once you see the movie, you can definitely understand that has a very singular approach and a singular vision.
Yeah, and you've set a precedent because now every director, every filmmaker is going to want their name in the title now. But I gotta say, if it was Jason Blum's idea, I would trust him because there's a reason it's no longer called Blumhouse now. It's no longer called Blumhouse because now he has mansions, so that's why it's BH now, not Blumhouse, because he has mansions.
BH, exactly. But look, Jason's been around. He's a very successful, intelligent man. So I listen to people like that when they talk.
Rightly so. Anyway, listen, I can't wait to see what you do next, whether it has your name in the title or not. I'm looking forward to it. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I'll probably see it a third time. By the way, one of the things I'll quickly mention that, like, people mention The Exorcist a lot, but I mean, you referenced two of my favorite movies, The Omen and Burnt Offerings. I love those movies. So even when she goes flying out the window into the car, I was like, oh, is the eyeball going to come out? No. Okay. But still.
Yeah. No, I hear, look, we all have a lot of different influences in different ways. I think sometimes people, I understand the shortcuts that emerge because it is a possession story and it involves, a young girl and there's a lot of physical performance. But the two movies that I kept going back to as I was developing the story were Seven and Poltergeist. They were real touch points for me.
Both great movies also. So there you go.
Yeah.
Listen, Lee, great talking to you, man.
Edward, thank you so much. Thanks for the time.
Hope we'll talk again in the future.
We here.
She's been missing for 8 years. What was our daughter doing in a 3,000-year-old sarcophagus?
She just needs our care and lots of love.
How many others were found?
57.
How many of them were still alive?
What happened to Katie? What really happened to her?
Loco, Señor de los Milagros.
Say something.
Loco, Señor de los Milagros.
Say something.
Transformó lo imposible en realidad.
Say something. Say something!
Amén.
Say something.
Don't worry, Grandma. It's fun to be dead.
I just want my daughter back.